We're talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells. Schumann, Bell Tower, and Worthen. Fans all over from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Cannons, Carters, and Greeks.
All right, everybody in Cardinal land, welcome to the latest edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast. By the fans, Colin and I, for the fans, all of you out there listening. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes, coaches, and some other people, and fun off-the-wall debates that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And Colin, as I always say, what do I want everyone to always remember? We're talking Ball State. There he is. Hey, we're back. This is our bonus episode for the week. So all the fans out there, you're getting a little bit extra of Colin and I this week. A couple days back, we had the interview with our great friend, Chris Radican. Colin, always great to have him on. What have you heard from the interview from Chris Radican from the fans? Are people excited about what they heard him say about fall camp?
Yeah, so Cardinal brethren are chirping, and I'm hearing it. It's getting louder. It's getting louder. It's just legend. That's all they're saying. Chris Radican, Ball State of the Union, friend of the show, and a complete legend. So I'm glad he was on. Never had a losing season with Ball State, 88 to 91. Not a lot of people can say that. So for him to come on the show and bless us and bless the viewers, I'm appreciative every time.
Yeah, he's always great. Hopefully he's not too sore from the golfing he did. But Colin, I saw something else that came out in the last couple of days that basically has you written all over it. It seems like you pitched this idea and they are running it specifically for you. We are having a little video game competition here. Ball State Sports officially with EA Sports or EA College Sports for college football this year. They're having a tournament. You can sign up in this tournament. You play as Ball State against Ball State. So Ball State on Ball State crime. We usually don't want to see Ball State lose, but in this scenario, someone has to. You told me you signed up. You've been practicing already. What can the people out there, are you going to win this thing, first of all?
It's a chance. There's a chance. I mean, it's strong likelihood, maybe not. I don't want to do the pump fake that I did for Fan Jam because, guys, I swear I thought I was going. I had to practice. I had practice for football. Had to go and coach. My bad. But on this, John, I give myself a 50-50 shot of working these boys.
Our guy David at BSU Edits on Instagram, I think he's in this too. I expect to see the two of you in the championship game for this. Also out there, for some reason, someone we don't know wins this. You have a chance. You're going to come on Ball State of the Union. Basically, the winner of this is going to come on to Ball State of the Union. And we're going to interview you. We're going to give you your press conference after you win the championship. You're going to do a coaching press conference. We're going to give it to you. Maybe we'll send you some merch. We'll do something. But whoever wins this tournament is going to be a guest on Ball State of the Union, and we're going to give you your chance to say your piece on kind of how you won this all. So, Colin, it could be you. We might have to go out there and find anybody, but
it's possible.
Who knows? You might stink at this game. I don't really know. I don't play it.
No, I'm a dog. I just got on there today, and so basically each team has to be Ball State. It's 5-minute quarters, 20 seconds accelerated clock. That is troublesome because if I run the ball, each run play, it takes another 20 seconds off the clock, other than the actual time you took. So if I control the ball for the whole quarter, you can really do that with a 20-second accelerated clock. Now, I played today against the computer on not all American. I did Heisman, even above the level they want you on. And I ended up winning, I think, 28-0. But it is crazy how long you can go without having the ball. So you got to make every opportunity count. And we'll see who wins. I think it'll either be myself or a friend of the show, maybe Drew. You'll see him popping up here and there. He's an absolute dog at the game. If I don't win, I expect myself, obviously not myself, Dave or Drew to get the dub, but we'll see.
Yeah, the last, you can see back behind me there, right over there, it's an old school TV. The last college football game I got is college football 2005 on the GameCube. So if you want to play that, I'll work you. But otherwise, you guys, I probably wouldn't be much be much use here. So one other thing that popped up that is kind of interesting and maybe people should go out and check out, a friend of ours, Jeff Mitchell, he keyed a letter to all Ball State fans here, kind of the beginning of the year letter, and he kind of referenced some of this. But go to Ball State's website, check it out. Just if you're not as tapped in as maybe you ought to be or you want to be, he kind of gives you a rundown of everything that's happened in the offseason and kind of what you can expect this year. A handful of new coaches, obviously Coach U with the football team. We got a new men's volleyball coach, tennis coach, all new playing services like he was talking about. So it's kind of a fun read and get you caught right back up if maybe you kind of fell off since last year. So Jeff Mitchell.
I got a secret.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we got a secret here.
I got a secret for Jeff Mitchell.
Okay.
He's going to love it. My middle name is Michael.
Oh.
Jeff, hire me.
I was going to say, Jeff loves to hire the mics. So, but he also fires the mics. So you got to be careful there.
That's true.
That's true. Hey, last thing before we get into our interview with Cade Hampton. Great interview. He gives us some good insights on that fall camp as well. And he kind of dives in a little bit more about maybe what we can expect for the entire season. But hey, I got a big personal thing here I wanted to show everybody. So as you can see in my office here, I like to put some stuff on display. I like it to be nice and clean, nothing too big, nothing too crazy. But I've been working on something for a little while now. And it came in the mail today, and I want to show you it. I'll call him now right now. So I had a friend of mine reach out recently. He was a student manager with me back in 2014. His name's Shay Kramer. He's a big fan of the show. Shout out, Shay. He said, hey, I got this thing from when we were in college. It's been sitting in a box in my basement or closet or wherever it was. I don't really have a plan for it. Do you want it? He said, oh, yeah, it'd be perfect. So he sends me this. And then right after our interview with Juwan Edwards, I said, all right, this is the perfect person to finish this off. So he sends me this mini helmet right here. It's kind of light on here, but we got Keith Winning right here. Willie Snead right there. And Juwan Edwards. So if you're a Ball State football fan in 2012 and 2013, you know how big a names Keith Winning, Juwan Edwards, and Willie Snead are to, Ball State fans. And I was a student there at the time. And so they really helped me kind of fall in love with Ball State when I got there, because no one's really a Ball State fan growing up for the most part. People are fans of other bigger teams and this, that, and the other. So those teams, 2011, 2012, 2013, really kind of helped solidify that for me. And so this is like a Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore item, and it's going to be on display for a long time. And you'll be able to see it in the background on the show from here on out. So I wanted to just take that moment to say shout out to Shay. He really helped me out here because that already had Keith and Willie's signatures on it already. But so Colin, you will not be getting that. That's mine.
All right, John over here bragging. No, I'm messing with you. That's
so hey,
good.
if anyone has any cool Ball State memorabilia that means a lot to them, drop a picture of it somewhere. Tag us in it. Let's see it. We want to see all the stuff. Sideline shows all his cool stuff that he's able to get. I try and show off some stuff I have. I don't have nearly as much as him. I try and keep it pretty concise of what I get. But I'd like to see any cool, rare things out there that we have. So I know Colin's got some of his stuff on display back there. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into our interview with Cade Hampton from the Star Press. He covers Ball State, all of Ball State sports and high school sports in the area. But let's see what Cade has to say about the 2025 Ball State Cardinals. All right, everyone out there in Cardinal land, joining us today is Cade Hampton, the Ball State reporter for the Muncie Star Press. Cade's been up close and personal with the Cardinals throughout fall camp, watching all the drills, watching all the reps, every player who's trying to make their name this season. He's here to share his firsthand insights on what he's seen so far, some of the key storylines maybe throughout the rest of camp that we want to watch, and what the outlook on the season here for Ball State in 2025 might look like. So, Cade, thank you so much for joining us today. How exactly did you get to Muncie? I've seen you're an Alabama grad. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So I am born and raised. I'm a Tennessean, born and raised. I was born in a little town called Mount Juliet, Tennessee. It's about 30 minutes east of Nashville. But both my parents were Alabama alumni, raised me an Alabama fan, and wound up following in their footsteps, going to UA down in Tuscaloosa, and got an internship with the Tuscaloosa News, which is also part of the USA Today network of newspapers. And so my boss there got me hooked up, and there was an opening in Muncie. It had been open for a while. I learned pretty quickly that there was a bit of a drought in terms of, sports writing here. So I was happy to fill those shoes and, excited to stay a little closer to home. It's only about a 5-hour drive back to Tennessee from here, so not terrible. But, I've loved it here so far. Been here about a year. My first day was literally like the first Ball State press conference last year. So it was like I got thrown to the wolves, but it's been fun making my way around, learning the area. And, this offseason has been a lot more involved. I've been, going to camp and everything and seeing all the players in action. It's been a good time.
Well, perfect. Yeah, we're glad to have you. I know Colin's always big on making sure that there's plenty of Ball State news out there for him to be able to consume. And, like you said, there was a little bit of drought there for a minute, so we're happy to have you. A little bit of a difference in football programs going from Alabama to Ball State, but what you've seen so far at fall camp this year, first impressions that you get, overall maybe like the team's attitude, kind of the vibe. Was there a vibe shift this offseason from when, Mike New was ultimately fired last year to Coach U coming in? Just kind of where are you at with Ball State right now and your first impressions of what you've seen?
Yeah, it really does feel like a very, fresh slate, fresh start. Because, not only do you have basically an entirely new coaching staff, but you've also got almost an entirely new roster. Half of these guys were not here last year. They transferred in. There's a lot of freshmen. And then a lot of the guys that stuck around didn't really see a lot of playing time last year. There's very few guys especially on the offense, that really got a lot of, reps last season. So in terms of the vibes, the vibes are, very positive. Everybody is, seems really bought into Coach U and his staff and, the vision they have. And they're not at all worried about kind of the outside expectations. I know, things have been bad in the past, and but yeah, they're, very much just ready to, get better every single day. And the only expectations they're worried about are the ones that they have for themselves. And that's kind of the right attitude that you need to have, have a quick turnaround at, a program that has struggled.
Yeah. You're talking about Coach U there a little bit. He was very warm and welcoming with us. He's a guest of the podcast before. What's kind of been like your relationship with him so far? Have you had a chance to spend much time with him? Or if you haven't, what have you just kind of seen from afar?
Yeah, no, I've been around Coach U since, the first day he came here. He's very, open, very friendly, a lot more accommodating to the media than the last staff was. Just in terms of having practices open and training camp, things like that. I don't think that was a thing in the past. So, but yeah, it's been very, it's been nice. And he's always willing to make his assistant coaches available. They're all, very friendly. And so, yeah, it's been, and you can really, kind of see that rub off on the players too. There's a lot of the, respectfulness, politeness. Everybody is, kind of on the same train there. So Coach U, it starts at the top, and it really just, kind of seeps throughout the program. And this isn't to say that people weren't nice to me last year. Like Coach New and his staff were also, incredibly kind people. But very, positive attitude. Coach U has been, pretty good so far in my experience.
Yeah, Colin was he was a little worried when Coach U first came around because Colin tried to go into the spring game with like a big, huge camera, and he was denied entry because he just thought he could roll up with that. So ever since we had a chance to talk to him, we've been able to see, he is pretty nice, and Colin was testing the limits a little bit there. But let's kind of jump into some of the players here. Breakout players so far. Who has stood out in the camps? The fall camp this year, the practices you've been to, who are the people that kind of jump off the page, off the field when you're watching them?
Oh, man, that's a good question. There's a lot of guys. Starting on the offense, the running back room is really deep. They got 4 guys that really could, command some touches. But I think the guy there in that backfield is Quay Ashley has been really impressive. He kind of does a little bit of everything. He's a really good receiver out of the backfield. He's a great pass blocker and pass protection. He picks up, the edge rushers and blitzers well, things like that. And he also has kind of the most experience out of the backfield. So he's probably the guy I would expect to kind of shoulder the workload there. But Elijah Jackson, also the young kid from Purdue, when he gets in open space and gets that speed going, it's crazy. It's a lot. But elsewhere on the offense, there's a true freshman, Elijah Durham, this wide receiver. all of the players have been talking about him, the wide receivers, the cornerbacks. They all have, nothing but positive things to say about this kid. And he might be pushing for playing time pretty early. The receiver room is pretty deep too. A lot of guys coming back there, but he's been a guy that, I mean, at media day, it was crazy how many times we heard his name come up, just asking the other guys, like, who's been impressive so far, who's asking the corners, who's been tough to cover. I mean, his name just kept coming up. It was crazy. So going over to the defense, Nathan Voorhees, I wrote a lot about him during the spring. He really showed out at the spring showcase, but he's continued to, wreak havoc. The defensive line as a whole, I mean, that unit really is making things frustrating for the offense sometimes. But who else on that defensive line? I'm looking at my roster here. Darren Conley has really had a big offseason. He's been someone that the coaching staff has really talked up and kind of came on strong at the end of last season. I know early on in the year, the run defense was a big problem, especially that Central Michigan game, Western Michigan, that kind of ran all over them. But later on in the season, that run defense seemed to take a step forward a little bit, and Conley was kind of a big part of that. So, and he's kind of stepped into more of a leadership role as well. He represented the team well at Mac Media Day. So he's a guy that I think could be in for a bigger year with a lot more snaps. And having an really experienced guy like Drew Hughes there next to him is going to help in that regard. And right behind those guys, you have so much experience at linebacker, and Joey Stemler, Jack Beebe, Jackson Weagold, and you can really feel their presence, especially pre-play. You can always hear them calling things out and being, in that signal caller role, and you can tell how much experience they have and how well they set the standard for the rest of the defense, because there's a lot of new starters on that defense. So those guys have all really kind of stood out so far.
Cade, how are they using Quay Ashley in the kickoff return game?
Yeah, he's been rotating back in there. There's a couple of other guys that have also gotten some reps in kickoff return. I've seen Jackson back there. I've seen Magwood back there. I've seen Braden Flaharty back there, the Yale transfer quarterback who's converted to wide receiver. So I've also seen Joe Edric Lewis back there, the defensive back transfer from Southeast Missouri. So, but I mean, given Quay Ashley's history and experience as a return man, it would not surprise me to see him really kind of shoulder the workload there.
Yeah,
and then a follow-up for you.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying it seems like they have no shortage of speed on the offensive side of the ball. So these guys who are going to be able to return kicks and punts, I guess I don't even know where they're going to go with the punt, but these kickoff return guys, they're going to have speed. They're going to have plenty of speed for that. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Colin.
No, I had a follow-up to earlier, Cade, you mentioned yeah, the vibes are definitely good. Do you think the performance has been matching the vibes? Does the team look good right now? It's still early, but what?
I would say it's hard to get a gauge on the offense with how well the defense has been performing. I think the defense has taken a big step forward, especially with having the continuity in the system with Knowles, and the linebacker room plays a big part of that. And like I said, those guys have all that experience as well. So the defense, especially that front seven, has really been pretty tough. So I think that'll be a thing to take a step forward. But the offense, I know the offensive line is still kind of a work in progress. That might just be a factor of having to go against such a deep defensive line unit every day. But there's also, I know last year the offensive line, the level of experience there was one of the team's biggest strengths. I think they had, in terms of snaps played or starts, one of the top 15 offensive lines, but that is certainly not the case this year in terms of starting experience. So that's still a work in progress. They've rotated a couple of guys in at guard. I think Chris Hood, who started a lot last year, seems to have the right tackle spot kind of locked down. So, but I mean, the offense is definitely very creative. So they, if the offensive line does end up kind of having problems, they certainly have the speed and the creativity, the scheme to kind of get around that. But yeah, I mean, they certainly look pretty good, I would say. I mean, it's training camp and they're just playing against each other, but I mean, yeah, they look solid.
So where are the position battles then? At first, I thought it was going to be the cornerback room. Our good friend of the show, Chris Radican, said that it looks like it's McLean and Yates right now. Do you agree? And then where are the position battles that maybe aren't set yet?
Yeah, I would say McLean and Yates definitely seem like they still have those jobs kind of locked up. I would expect to see those guys out there a good bit. But another guy who came in the transfer portal, Roman Pearson from Bucknell, he has a really good build. He's 6'2", nice and tall cornerback. He can get some good range, and he's made some really nice plays out there too. So, but I would say that, yeah, probably Yates and McLean are still kind of, I mean, with the experience they got last year and how well they looked, I know they kind of took their lumps, had some moments, but they're pretty, yeah. As far as other position battles go, guard, I mentioned, I think on the offensive line, they've rotated a couple of guys in at guard. Let me see here.
Cade, is that the weakness of the team? Is the O-line the weakness of the team?
It's like I said, it's hard to determine because defensive line is such a clear strength of the team, and the coaches have, said that pretty explicitly. We think the defensive line is, their biggest strength so far, and just how much depth they have there. So, is the offensive line a weakness? I would say maybe in terms of the amount of unknowns and experience, perhaps, maybe, but again, it's really hard to say what's weak right now, especially with the unit they're going against in that defensive line. Just in my opinion, that's how I look at it. But the offensive line, I mean, yeah, definitely work in progress. They've rotated, like I said, a couple of guys in at guard. Let's see, we've seen Zach Bandy out there. We've seen Luke Dalton out there. We've seen Isaac Lucas out there, and he's a guy that has drawn some praise from the defensive linemen that I've talked to. And Aaron Roberts, he's a experienced senior transfer from Purdue. He's a redshirt senior, so he's gotten a lot more looks with the first team recently. He might be, a guy to look out for. But last time I asked Coach U, he said, the offensive line, they're gonna, they're still working through who's gonna be out there. And yeah, so I mean, nothing's official until the Monday before week 1. We get the depth chart, but.
So we got a big shift, it appears, in how this offense is going to be run from last year to this year. Obviously, one of the first things is Coach U coming in, going to get that historic Coach U run-heavy offense, it seems like, and then just switching the scheme of the quarterback back to Kyle Kelly, obviously much more of a dual threat than Caden Simmons would have been. So is that what you've seen so far? Have we seen a more run-heavy offense? I know you were saying it is pretty creative, which would usually lead you to believe that might be fairly pass heavy, but what have you seen so far and kind of what you expect how this offense is actually going to be run?
Yeah, I think it'll be, very run heavy. Kyle obviously is going to be, using his legs a lot as well. I would expect to see, a good bit of option plays, RPOs, read options, let the running backs get into some space. And I would expect to, see him throw it to the running backs a good bit as well. They, catch a lot of the passes out of the backfield, and the tight ends also are playing kind of a big role over the middle as kind of a safety valve type of thing. But yeah, it's going to be, largely the run. I would say, in practice, it's, pretty balanced offense as far as the drills. And, whenever they scrimmage, they usually are scrimmaging like a 2-minute drill. So it's, pretty pass heavy there. And, those plays, are usually the ones that need more work. But I would still anticipate the, running backs and Kyle Kelly kind of shouldering the load on offense as far as moving things.
Yeah, because it seems like they have a fairly deep and veteran wide receiver room as well. So and a great returning coach as well. So I was hoping that they're able to not have to fully abandon that, which obviously you're never going to fully abandon one phase of it. But I was just curious how that was going to play out. But I know Colin, he had a question here that I don't think it's going to translate to people just on internet. You have to be in person like you are. So you're a perfect person to ask this about leadership and kind of team chemistry.
Yeah, Cade, who's really taken on that leadership role in the locker room? And then how is the team chemistry evolving during camp?
Yeah, I mean, it's always you got to start with the QB1 when it comes to leadership. He's been, that guy. A lot of the offensive skill players I've talked to said he was the first guy to reach out to them. Quay Ashley said this. He was the first guy to reach out to him when he committed, and maybe even before he officially committed. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, Kyle and Keon Magwood also, he's the longest tenured Cardinal. He was on the MAC championship team. He's been here for quite a while. So those two guys have really, you can hear Keon Magwood a lot at practice. There's the one person you hear more than anybody is Ray Smith, the defensive backs coach. I mean, you hear him as soon as you walk in there. But when you're on the sideline, you hear Keon Magwood a lot talking to the wide receiver room, and he's always the first to let people know. And I mean, with his experience and the amount of time that he's been here specifically, yeah, I mean, people really respect what he has to say, and he's one of those guys. And then as far as the defense goes, I mentioned a lot of the same guys I kind of already mentioned. Darren Conley has really stepped into that role as a younger guy. And then there's the whole linebacker room, really all the 3 J's, I kind of call them: Jack Beebe, Jackson Weagle, Joey Stimler. And then you also got Smoke Johnson in there. Smoke Johnson dipped into the portal. He was kind of like Kyle and Keon in that sense. He, explored his options a little bit, but ultimately decided to come back. And he's also been around there a while. And those linebackers, like I said, very vocal out there. So, but yeah, team chemistry, everybody is very much in tune with one another. It seems the coaching staff is, very young. So I think it's very easy for them to kind of relate to these guys. And, when you have that sense of not easygoingness, I don't want to say, but it's, that sense of friendliness, I suppose. Everybody is able to kind of feel that energy. And yeah, they all, everybody seems to really get along. Obviously, in practice, those situations, the DBs and wide receivers they'll get into it occasionally. That's how those guys are. That's how those positions are by nature. And things will get competitive out there, but it never has gotten to a point of anything serious. And cooler heads always prevail at the end of the day. It's yeah, I mean, as from that perspective, everybody seems really, in tune with one another. All the position rooms are very much locked in. So it's pretty good, I would say.
Has there been any good scuffles this camp though so far?
There was one indoor practice that got pretty intense. I'm trying to think of who it was that got involved.
Don't hold out. Don't hold out on us, Cade.
Really, I'm really drawing a blank. It really I'm seriously drawing a blank here. It was but that indoor practice was a very physical practice. There was one point I'll say Tate Hoover laid a block that just absolutely echoed through the whole gym, and it got the whole offense riled up. And I think, after that, the defense, was not very happy, and then they started to kind of get a little chippy. But again, like I said, cooler heads always prevail. Things kind of cooled off eventually, and it was good. But we haven't had any full on like throwing hands, swinging or anything like that. But it's
if you ask anybody on any football defense ever, they'll always say any training camp fight has been started by the offense, because the defense is never allowed to hit. They're not allowed to do this, that, and the other. And then the offensive guy comes through trying to make a name for himself, and they always start these fights. So I always love good training camp fight. I worked, for Ball State football. I worked in the NFL for a couple of years for a few different teams. Those are always the best days. Those are long, hot, bad days. So I'm kind of shocked that you said it was an indoor practice, because usually it's when they're outside and it's extra hot. But,
yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was thinking too. I'm like, I wouldn't expect to see the guys really kind of get into it inside. I mean, the hot practices, you hear them get kind of vocal in the outside a lot more. But yeah, the indoor practice was the I guess the most physical and kind of most competitive one I've seen. And even after that practice, Coach U walked by me and he was like, "It's a good practice today." And I was like, "Yeah, it got a little intense." And
there we go.
He seemed to not mind that too much. So as long as things aren't going off the rails, I think that's something that he kind of embraces, that the guys going out there and competing with each other, putting bodies on bodies.
Mm-hmm. we asked Chris Radican this same question. I'll pose the same thing to you. We'll do a little scenario role play type thing here.
Right.
You're back in Tuscaloosa. You run into an old buddy, and you're telling him, "Hey, I work for the Star Press. I write about Ball State football." He said, "Ball State football? I don't really know much about them. Describe Ball State football to me. How would you describe Ball State football to someone who doesn't know them? This Coach U team, how would you describe them?"
God, that's a great question, and I would say it's a new era of Ball State football. Obviously, with a coaching change, it's always a new era, but it really does feel like everybody has kind of embraced the newness of it all, the newness of the roster, the newness of the coaching staff, and everybody is just kind of ready to go, ready to hit the ground running. They, like I said earlier, they're not worried about kind of the outside expectations of how they're viewed. They're just ready to get into the season and show people what they can do, and just continue getting better.
Okay. Colin, do you have anything else on fall camp before we kind of shift over to just the regular season here?
Yeah, I got one thing. So some of my Cardinal brethren, they've been chirping. The chirping is getting louder. I'm hearing Kyle Kelly has become more accurate this season. True or false?
I probably don't have as good of a gauge on that, because I wasn't, I'm not going to pretend I was watching Ball State football 2 years ago when he was the starting quarterback. But
in practices, Cade.
In practices, from what I've seen, he has been definitely, compared from the spring to the fall practices, I would say, has definitely taken a step forward. And there seems to be a lot less, especially even from the earlier practices, there's a lot less turnovers. He threw, there was one practice he threw multiple interceptions, and I haven't seen that happen in a while. I don't know when the last time really he threw an interception in practice was. Now that I think about it, I don't think he's thrown one this week. So, but yeah, I would say, as far as accuracy, he's doing a good job delivering it to the guys. He's high pointing the big guys very well. That's one thing you'll see. I mentioned the tight ends earlier. Kobe Gross, Cam Anthony have some really good size out there, and Kyle's doing a really good job putting it right up where they can go up and grab it. So. I would say, the accuracy has taken a step forward. The coaches have all said, have all kind of relayed that, but I think it's still going to be, he's still going to be asked to run the ball a good amount. You can't ignore that when he gets going, and he glides around the field. With his moves and his speed, you got to let him go sometimes.
Yeah.
One last fall camp question.
Okay.
Any word from friend of the show, or not any word, any sighting from friend of the show, Lucas Simborski, the linebacker? Have you seen him at all? Has he popped out any? He's just a freshman, but we know he's super athletic. What you got for us?
Yeah, I've definitely seen him. He's out there. He's making a couple of plays. Obviously, that linebacker unit is very deep, so not a whole lot of first team action, but I've seen him. He's made his share of plays, made a couple of tackles, and he definitely like you said, very athletic kid. He was one of the more highly touted freshman recruits coming in. So I would expect big things from him. And this linebacker room is going to be work wonders for him, coming in with 3, really 4, if you count Smoke Johnson as a senior, 4 guys that have 4+ years of college football experience under their belt, and that's your linebacker room your freshman year. You can't really ask for much better than that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you've seen all of last year. You saw what that mess ended up being throughout the year. And now you've seen this now. Based on what you've seen this fall, through the spring, through the fall so far, what are some realistic goals or benchmarks for Ball State football in 2025?
Yeah, I think they fully expect, I think, to be, competitive and competing in the MAC for a MAC championship. Obviously, the MAC schedule was not very favorable, getting Ohio, Toledo, and Miami of Ohio. I think those are going to kind of be the big 3 this year. I think Buffalo is also a little bit of a sleeper team, but Having, all those guys, obviously Akron and Kent State, kind of helps in terms of the conference strength of schedule, helps those matters. No, no disrespect, but I don't think those teams necessarily improved as much as Ball State did last year, and they kind of, were joining them in the basement of the conference. So I think, but really though, I think, when you look at last year, so many of those losses were just not making the big play at the right time. There were so many just fourth quarter collapses and chokes. Buffalo was, obviously the nail in the coffin for that reason. And, those last two games, it was very weird because a lot of guys, it seemed maybe had even checked out. I don't want to, go accusing anybody of checking out, but when your coaching staff gets fired like that and you're, out of contention, it makes sense. I mean, shoot, Kyle Kelly was in the portal before the last game. So, right. That's just kind of how it goes, in this era where guys can go in the portal before a season is over. But obviously he ended up coming back and he's, locked in, but I think they were a lot closer really last year. Because, I mean, those first two MAC losses were those fourth quarter collapses, like I said, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, and you win those and start 2-0 in the MAC instead. And that makes a world of difference because you still, you go win the Kent State game, NIU clutch win, and then there was another, the Buffalo win. Or the Buffalo loss, if you go into that with some momentum and competing in the conference, and maybe you pull that one out. So I think with this coaching staff and the discipline, the things that they've instilled, I think if they get into those situations where it comes down to the fourth quarter, I think we will start to see those guys make the right play and, do the right things they need to do, especially on defense. I know the defense was a big problem in those scenarios last year, but with another year of Jeff Knowles being around, a lot more experience with the system, I think they got a lot better in the defensive backs department specifically as far as communication goes. So I think we'll see them kind of, maybe pull out some of those closer games. And if things start off well enough, they could very well compete in the conference. But as far as expectations go, it's, they were, not great last year, and the non-conference schedule is not very kind. So you want to get out of those games with as few injuries as possible, really.
Yep. Bingo.
In Purdue week 1 would be nice. That's probably one of the more winnable Power 5, Power 4 teams. But Auburn especially, you want to get out of that as healthy as possible.
Make sure the check clears and nobody get hurt.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Wait,
okay, go ahead, Colin.
No, I got to pin him down, John. I got to pin him down.
Okay.
Are we going bowling or not?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? Last year, they were maybe 5 or 6 plays away from going bowling. Like, it was so much closer than people realize. I mean, looking at the results, they were maybe, 5 or 6 is probably, doing them, that might be too small a number, maybe like 10 plays or something, but they were a lot closer than people realized last year. Just couldn't get it done in the big moments. But I think this year you have a lot of hungry guys who are, ready to make those plays in those big moments. And I'm not gonna come on and say, yeah, they're going bowling, but the over under is 3.5 wins. That's the line this year. I could probably say bet the over.
Oh yeah. Colin's like the number one MAC fan. He's about to ask you about the MAC here in a second, but I wanted to go back to 2 things that you just said a minute ago. Number one, we're talking about the Buffalo game. The Buffalo collapse of that game was so bad. That's why this show exists. It had like loosely existed before, but it wasn't super serious. I just kind of did it, whatever. And then people were like, we need a Ball State of the Union right now. This is so bad. We cannot get over this. That's number one. And number 2, I don't know if you noticed, when you're bringing up Kent State, this man right above me here is snickering. he has set himself up. If some reason we are to lose Kent State this year, he might never be able to show his face on the internet again. He is nonstop coming after Kent State. Colin, would you like to defend yourself against Kent State at all?
Yeah. I'll talk about Kent State whenever Kent State is brought. I love talking about Kent State. You're an Alabama fan, Cade, so you'll understand this. Like, when you play teams, you expect to win because Alabama wins 95% of the time, right? Now, as a Ball State fan, I never get to feel like an Alabama fan until I play Kent State. And you know what I mean? Like, I get in a nice comfy position. I don't got to stand up and get close to the TV. I don't have to get nervous, really. I'm just kind of, let me get a beer, let me relax, let me watch my team handle business.
You see what I mean?
And that's what. So I love playing Kent State. They're my second favorite team in the MAC.
Hey, even last year, Kent State almost, they almost messed around and won that. Krishan McRae got all over that. All over the defense.
Okay, let's be honest here. I really feel like Mike New was playing some favoritism and putting people in the secondary that didn't deserve to start because he maybe liked those players more, because players that were featuring heavily in the Kent State game have now transferred into the FCS. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to go, Kent State did great, because I think there was some coaching malpractice going on slightly, so.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. They did make a pretty big change. I think right in that Kent State game was when they started Yates and McLean. But I think communication on the back end was a big problem last year. But also, they really just didn't play very well in a lot of the big moments. And the Buffalo, we mentioned, Buffalo game keeps coming up, but that was one of the more just negative, just bad. I'll say bad, just really bad defensive displays of the season last year. It was just a collapse. They were really cruising, and I was like, hey, they're gonna maybe turn this around and push for a bowl game, and that just. The Central
they needed 1 yard to kick a field goal to win, and they threw deep twice. Anyways, all right, Colin.
But speaking of this, though, I just want to follow up just a little bit, because when there's a game and we don't get a post-game press conference, Cade, what do they tell you?
Oh, great question.
And then I have one more question too on that, Cade. Do they tell you things that you're not allowed to ask them? Are certain things off limits, or is everything free game?
Well, there's definitely nothing that's off limits. Everything's free game as far as questions goes. They don't play anything like that. But as far as the lack of post-game press conferences, I think I was told the same thing you were. We did have press conferences. They were on Zoom calls through a cell phone, so we were able to talk to Coach New, talk to players, and get post-game quotes and write, post-game articles with those quotes. But just in terms of, setting up an actual Zoom call and having a spot with reliable connection to do that kind of in, the visiting team locker rooms, or, not particularly accommodating as far as setting up an actual post-game press conference. So we got a post-game press conference. They just, they didn't have the video equipment and everything necessary to, film a presser, I suppose, but I don't know if that'll be an obstacle again this year or not. I have no idea, but that's just that's what I've been told.
Thank you for that. Okay, so now to the MAC question. I'm a big MAC fan. It's my favorite conference. How do you think Ball State stacks up against MAC opponents this year? And are there any teams that you see as a key rival for the year? Maybe NIU and then whoever else.
I think NIU, obviously the last battle for the Bronze Stalk for the foreseeable future. I know you guys had Jeff Mitchell on here the other day, and he talked about the potential of setting that up again, but they're kind of, non-conference out for the next couple of years. So I would personally love to see that come back. I love a good trophy game, and I think the more you have, the merrier. I think it's going to suck if they only have one next year with the Redbird rivalry. But again, I kind of have asked the guys, is there anybody else you kind of really get up for? And they didn't really have much of an answer. So I would think with Coach U's history with NIU, that might be a factor. If there was any other, coaching experience within the MAC, there's a couple of the special teams coordinator, Nick. I don't know how to say his last name. Faya Cable. He was at UConn last year, and they're going back to UConn. So there's a couple of guys. Coach U went to Purdue, so I mean, obviously that these are non-conference games I'm talking about here, but you got those kind of connections, and as far as rivalry goes. But one interesting tidbit I will say for a MAC rivalry game, especially late season, if Ball State finds themselves competing in the MAC. This is a team they're going to have to get through in Toledo, who's expected, they were picked to win the conference. Ball State plays them in the Glass Bowl later this year. And Kyle Kelly, when he was in the portal, I think he posted a video or a picture on Twitter of him, visiting Toledo, but Toledo was recruiting him as an outside wide receiver. Kyle, he entered the portal as a, all position, whatever you want to play me as player. And Toledo said, yeah, you can come on as a receiver. But he was probably, going to be buried on the depth chart, and ultimately decided to come back because Coach U said you're a quarterback. And so I think if Ball State is pushing for a MAC championship and Kyle Kelly goes into the Glass Bowl and, tears it up, that's going to be maybe the story of the conference, is this guy going into this, going in on the road and showing this coaching staff like, hey, look at me, beat your ass as a quarterback. I'm not trying to put the pressure on Kyle to do that. I'm sure he, if anybody wants to do that, wants to see him do that, it's Kyle Kelly himself. Yeah. But that would be certainly a great story, and I think could maybe set up a rivalry, maybe even Ball State early on in the Coach U era establishes themselves with that game. So,
John, why do we always have to have a rivalry against good teams though? Like Miami, Ohio, and NIU. And now Cade wants Toledo. How about Kent State?
No.
How about we start a rivalry with Kent State?
You play up.
Hey, if the Ball State and Kent State fans keep jawing at each other like it sounds like y'all are, then maybe that'll set itself up. But
I'd say, Colin gets after him. Rob sidelines Ball State. He gets after Kent State people. I don't know where this all started, but maybe that'll be our next thing. All right, Cade, one last question here for you. Storylines for Ball State football. What's like the number one storyline going into this season that you are seeing and curious to see how it plays out?
Again, this has kind of been my answer for a lot of these questions, but I think Kyle Kelly is kind of the big story. I mean, it's hard to ignore his entire journey through here. Coming in here, I was pretty much all I knew about Ball State when I started this job was like, let me get on the college football 25 because I just got that. Let me play a game. And I was like, damn, this QB can move. And then I, go to the first press conference and I get my depth chart and I'm like, he's a defensive back. What the hell? I'm looking, so I'm reading up on him and his whole journey last year, moving back to offense. And every time they put him out there, we were all kind of scratching our heads in the press box. Like, we know what's coming. I'm sure the other defense knows what's coming. And then sure enough, they did. And so it was tough for Kyle to, really get anything going last year. And I didn't really, blame him for when he entered the transfer portal. That was something I kind of expected with how he was being used. And, but I think the coaching staff has reinfused a lot of confidence into him. And I think it would be a great story to see that, play out, see him, go out there and ball out. But another storyline I'll give you because, like I said, it all keeps coming back to Kyle. Another storyline I'll throw out there is the defense with Jeff Knowles staying around. He was one of the only coaches that stuck around from last year's staff, and he and Coach U go way back. I mean, they were, fifth grade buddies. They won a state championship together in high school. That relationship is, really tight. So if the defense take another step forward, I know they were, a very big problem last year, especially in those late game, big moments. If the communication, and they all have said the communication has improved, but, we got to see that in action. And if they can turn that around, then I think that would be a great story as well.
Perfect. Yeah. A lot of Ball State fans are Colts fans as well. And we're kind of in the same boat. We have a very high ceiling quarterback. I think I think Ball State is better suited in that scenario right now, but it's kind of a similar thing. So, Cade, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Be sure everyone out there to check out Cade there's his X handle, his Twitter handle at Cade Hampton, and his great work that he does for the Star Press. Cade, you've come on the show now, so you have to come on anytime we ask now.
Okay. Hey, I'm looking forward to coming on again. And before I go, I will say you mentioned that a lot of Ball State fans are also Colts fans. I'm a diehard Miami Dolphins fan. I will be at Lucas Oil Stadium week 1.
Buddy, I live in South Florida, and I'm flying up to go to that game, so I'll have to link up while I'm there.
No way. All right, yeah, we'll have to link up for that.
Perfect.
But yeah, I'm very excited for that. I've experienced 3 NFL stadiums. I've been to the Titans Stadium a lot growing up near Nashville. I've been to that when it was still LP Field, but been to Nissan Stadium a lot. A buddy of mine took me to Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. That was awesome, and then went to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for a Falcons game back when I was in Tuscaloosa. So this will be my 4th one. I'll be 1/8 of the way through the league, and I was at Ford Field, of course, for the Media Day, but not counting that because there wasn't a game going on. Got to get in there for a game,
There we go. Yeah, you'll love Lucas Oil Stadium. So I'll look forward to seeing you. We'll reach out and we'll meet up when you're there.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Cade. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Cade.
Thanks again for having me on, guys.
Yep. All right, that was our interview with Cade Hampton from the Star Press. Again, he covers all things Ball State for the Star Press there in Muncie. Colin, what was your main takeaway from what Cade had to say today?
Yeah, my main takeaway was just solidifying the things I think we heard Chris Radican speak about and some of the other friends of the show, the freshness of the program, the new kind of spirit that seems like these guys are really working hard, and I think Cade solidified that I think we're gonna have a at least better than 3.5 win season. He didn't sound like necessarily a betting man, but he went out of his way to say 3.5 wins, we're over that. So if you're a betting man, you might want to place that bet because Cade's there every day. So I liked hearing that. I think we're on the right track, and I think it just pretty much took all the information we had, brought it together, and solidified it. So I thought it was a good interview.
The main thing that I'm taking away from these 2 interviews now, we've had Chris Radican, we have Cade Hampton, both guys who has been up there and been able to see Ball State football up close and personal. Colin, I think you might be getting this defensive line that you've been looking for. That's what I keep hearing is there. This is kind of the group coming out of camp so far. Definitely the group on the defense. And so, those pressures and sacks that we've kind of been lacking, it seems like these last few years might be on their way to Muncie, Indiana, and surrounding stadiums this year. So that's one thing that I was really happy to hear. That you probably wouldn't be able to hear just from any Joe Schmo like us on the internet. So that's going to do it for us today. Again, we appreciate all the support out there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all your favorite social media platforms, and those are YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and both of our respective Twitter accounts. Next week, Mick Tidrow, we're both going to be on location. You're going to be in Massachusetts. I'm going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, but we will make it work, and we will get this interview out there for all of you guys to see. And after that, we're going to be right into the season the next week. I know you're ready for that, Colin. I know you're ready.
Can't wait. I'll be there.
He'll be there week 1 Purdue, and then Twitter Spaces immediately following that Purdue game. So Colin might be cussing someone out in traffic trying to get out of there, but he'll be on with us. So everyone, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Chirp, chirp, and we'll see you all real soon.